This is a real challenge that businesses all around the world are now beginning to face. Why do I say that? Well, multinational organizations, by the very nature of what they do, operate in different jurisdictions. We have different levels of maturity in terms of usage, legislation, requirements, depending on where you happen to be operating. And so for the multinational organization, keeping me abreast of some of the ways in which legislation is changing, for instance, and the impact that will have on your business is really not for the faint-hearted. If we look at what is going on in Europe, for instance, we will see next year, after quite some negotiation and discussion with industry, legislation that is very clear in terms of the role of the organization in protecting data and the responsibilities that they have. And that comes along with some stick as well as carrot. You know, there are also some fines that could be imposed, which between 3 and 5% of total global revenues for loss of data or negligence and so on, I think will really focus the mind in the boardroom in terms of, you know, can we ensure that when we're going out there and delivering business across the world, that we're aware of that. That's the European Union. It's a very different situation if you go to Asia, for instance. It's a very different situation if you're in the United States. And so this juggling or trying to keep abreast of the legislative landscape is really occupying more and more time, I think, in the C-suite. An example I always use is two organizations that were based in the United States looking to expand across into Europe and roll out a BYOD program. One had grown organically, the other had grown through acquisition. The one that had grown organically pretty much understood how the data flows could be managed and therefore what their risk profile was against the backdrop of incoming legislation. The one that had grown through acquisition still wasn't at that stage of maturity, hadn't been able to integrate some of the companies that they had acquired, and so therefore didn't have the same level of confidence in the ability to be able to conform with legislation. So their project has been delayed with the associated impact that then has on the business. So certainly one I think that is becoming more complex. We're nowhere near having consistency globally around legislation, and I think that it will remain that way for the coming years.